First, he gave me flowers. And second, I made her a doll. But third, he'd be gone for hours. And fourth, we hit a wall. Lastly, there was blood. Rich and raw in the light of the moon. I can't forget. I will always regret what happened in Margot's room. First, he gave me flowers. Flowers. The first time I spoke to my husband was the day my father was buried. I was feeling sick. And even though our house had been crowded with friends, family, what felt like the entire village, he'd be the only one to come look for me. There you are. Despite how long he had worked for my father, I had never met his eyes. They were so blue. Would you like some company? I wish I could remember him that way, that day. I try now, but his face blurs at the edges, bleeding like a drop of ink in water. I'm sorry for your loss. It must be a shock. He was sick a long while. Still, every death is tragic. Then I just want mine to be quiet, and the funeral, something simple. Really? I'll have mine loud, then music, singing, dancing. And girls kneeling with ash in their hair? With flowers in their hair. But I wore flowers in my hair on our wedding day instead. And he promised he'd live forever. With me. He promised. And second, I made her a doll. Everyone used to say that Margot and I were so alike. Our hair, our faces, though she had her father's blue eyes. But I never thought so. If we were so alike, so similar, then why didn't I know how to be a mother to her? Why hadn't I been able to save her? After she was gone, she'd been sick a long while. My husband told me not to blame myself, that I had done all I could. But in my eyes, so like Margot's, I saw different. And I wonder, if we hadn't lost Margot, would I still have lost my husband? Would I still have lost myself? But third, he'd be gone for hours. Gone! After Margot left us, my husband began spending more time in the village for work. I spent much of my time alone, awaiting his return. This is the story he told me. On his way home, he had traveled through the woods. The night had been dark and the trees thick, and my husband had become lost. But the moon was full, and it lit a path he'd never seen before, which he then followed. He said it was silent on that walk, and it was still, for no wind blew. At last he entered a clearing with soft grass and a gentle stream, which he knelt to drink from. He claimed he heard voices then. My friend, listen, listen, our friend, love. And sounds as though the very water growled. And that downstream he saw dark shapes, also drinking deeply. He woke up in the same clearing as the sun was rising. He was alone, and the stream no longer spoke to him. When he returned home, I remember how tightly he held to him. He had been gone a long while, and the tired shrug with which he pushed me away. And forth we hit a wall. When I was a girl, no older than Margot had been, I used to wonder about my future. Would I find love? Would I have children? Would I be loved? Did she wonder these things too? Was it a kindness in the end? I did look for my husband the next time he left, but I never found the stream he spoke of, nor the silent path. And despite all he told me, the people in the village swore he'd never seen him. But I still patched his clothes. I cooked his meals. I cleaned his house. And yet, I could no longer see myself in my husband's eyes. I could no longer see Margot. I saw something else there. Something that drew him out into the night and kept him from our home. And I know it doesn't excuse what I've done. Nothing could. But what happened in Margot's room happened because my husband changed. Lastly, there was blood, rich and raw in the light of the moon. Blood. Gills? Yes! I'm guilty. I didn't stop when he cried out. I held onto his hair and I didn't stop. I looked into his eyes and I didn't stop. I couldn't. I didn't stop. Until I looked once more like the man I loved. Still love. Despite everything. I can't forget. I will always regret what happened in Margot's room.